Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome back to another one of my interviews here on Drip Talk with Blake Roberts, and I have a very special guest with me today. He is a current commentator slash broadcaster and on-air personnel. He formerly worked for WWE NXT slash FCW from 2011 to 2012. He currently works for Realty of Wrestling, Booker T and Queen Charmel's wrestling company, which is actually a WWE ID company. He formerly worked for WXW and he did some stuff for Ring of Honor, a little bit here and there. He is no other than Chris Russo, so we will get him on in here and then we will start on with the interview.
Blake, what's good, my man?
Hey, what's good? How are you?
Yeah, it's a little wet, a little treacherous outside here in Houston, but we're good. I mean, listen, I'm living and breathing. I always like to tell people I'm 6 feet over and not 6 feet under, so life is great.
That's right. Here in Wisconsin, it was warm today actually. Usually it's pretty cold, and today it was actually pretty warm. The snow was melting, so that was a good thing. It was
No.
in the 60s.
Oh my gosh, like we're in the hot season right now, Blake. It's there, we got two seasons in Houston, hot and then hotter. And we're almost in the hotter season. It's that we got that pollen going right now, allergy season, but it's steamy, right? We were only in
Yeah.
the 70s today, but it's going to be in the back to the 90s here this weekend. So we're
Really?
already, well, yeah, oh
Wow.
yeah, this is life in Houston, hot and muggy, hot and muggy.
Wow. I mean, I don't like the heat, but at the same time, I like the heat at the same time. But,
Nah, man. If I never have to shovel snow again in my life, right? Because I grew up in the DC metro area, so I'm used to. I remember snow. I know snow, and I hate it. Like it's cool when you're a kid, right? And school's canceled, and you don't have to go. But then when you're an
oh, yeah.
adult, you got to shovel it. It's an inconvenience. Like nobody take care of the kids, so you're just like, nah, man. I'm good. I'm good. I'll take it. But yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite. Certainly. Looking forward to this interview. I'm also happy to hear in a little bit. I'm happy to give you guys a little bit of a tour of reality of wrestling. What it is that we do here down in Houston. But like, listen, anything you got for me, I'm happy to share. So thanks a lot, Blake.
Yeah, of course. I thank you for taking your time out to do this. It's a pleasure to have you on. And then that tour sounds like a good idea, maybe closer to the end of the interview.
Sure.
All right. So the first question I'll ask you is, when did you start getting into the wrestling business, and what made you really just want to do it?
So my first foray into the wrestling business itself actually goes back to my time in college. I was a DJ, radio DJ for the classic rock station in the Shenandoah Valley, where I went to college for Clear Channel. And at the time, there was a local promoter by the name of Marvin Ward who was running shows through the Shenandoah Valley. Was this like 2006, 7, 8? Spot shows around. And they said, look,
Mhm.
on top, they were advertising with us, but on top of that, they also said, hey, we need a ring announcer. Is there anybody from the radio station? Because of obviously you guys got the voice. Like, is anyone interested? And of course, I raised my hand because I had been a wrestling fan as a kid growing up. We can talk about that here in a little bit, but
Yeah.
that was my first foray. Was actually ring announcing for these spot shows in Southwest Virginia, ending up meeting legends and guys at the time like Chris Hero and Sanjay Dutt. And I wasn't as exposed to the quote unquote the indie scene at that time, so I know these guys were big names, but I didn't know them because I really stuck to watching the stuff on TV.
Yeah.
Did that, didn't know how to continue it until I moved down to Florida. I had no idea about wrestling schools. I never thought about it, didn't think that was a thing. And then Blake, just like really serendipitously, my girlfriend at the time was going to school with Scott Wheeler. And
Oh
Scott
wow.
Wheeler, yeah,
Okay.
the NWA referee. And but at the time he was also, when he was reffing down in Florida in the Indies, I'd moved to Florida for grad school, and my girlfriend was like, "Hey, look, I know this guy named Scott. He's doing this refereeing for this guy named Alpha the Wild Samoan. Did you want to meet him and see if there's something you want to do?" I was like, "Yeah, this sounds great." And then from there, long story short, Scott got me connected with AFA. I went through the training school. Was able to build out my chops and like really get myself involved in professional wrestling. So from college to grad school, I just kind of fell into these situations, Blake. Sometimes you're just at the right place at the right time.
Of course, yeah, and training with one of the best Alpha, one of the best half of a tag team, the Wild Samoans. They were a great tag team, so of
Yep.
course, yeah. And talking about you training, was there ever like intentions of possibly getting in the ring yourself in wrestling, or did you just want to stick to just the commentating side of things and
Oh,
that?
it's I like that question because I like to tell people that I was trained. I was trained the hard way. I went through wrestling school. And I was able to take that because during my time through FCW and beyond, when I went back to WXW, and then even down here at Reality Wrestling, I actually will get in the ring to help train the very beginners, the very very new beginners,
Okay.
rolls, bumps, how to move around, how do you have to start to think like an entertainer and not just a wrestler or an athlete. So I have familiarity in being in the ring. I've trained. I've trained myself, right? I've trained others. I'm very proud of. But to go back to your initial question, like, did I ever think about me wanting to actually be a professional wrestler? The answer is no. um like, I knew where my bread was buttered and what I was really strong at. Like, I just knew in my mind, it's
Yeah.
like if I was going to have an opportunity to do something in this industry where I could have the most success, it's like I knew my voice would carry me a whole lot further than my wrestling acumen.
Right. Yeah, I see that with me too, because I actually work for a company in Michigan here, and I do backstage interviews. I'm kind of like that type of person, and I'm obviously have a podcast, so I'm more of like the talking person. But actually, I'm kind of nervous, and I'm kind of like an anxious person in real life, so it's kind of weird. But also, I do want to become a wrestler at the same time. So yeah,
Well, look, I look at it this way, and this is the type of advice that I give to like all the students that come in and anyone that I work with that is like starting this journey. And the answer really is you really should try and get to be familiar with everything in the pro wrestling industry as much as you can. If you come in, certainly you need to learn how to train. I think I'm a believer that anyone that gets involved in professional wrestling, whether you end up as a manager or a valet or a commentator, you should go through at the very minimum some very basic stuff in the ring for your own safety. God forbid, somebody doesn't know about if you get involved and someone pushes you down, how do you protect your neck, right? Take just something in a
hmm
way that you don't get hurt. But I think if you really want to get involved, is that you should certainly start at least be familiar, kind of hang around a little bit of everything, right? How does production work? How do camera guys work? How do ring announcers work? How do broadcasters work? How does grabbing gear right from the ring work? If you're the guy that's running gear, like, everybody has a purpose, everybody has a job, and you never know what job you might be asked to do, especially when you're starting out your career and you're paying your dues, and you're trying to find like your niche, your space, right? It's
yep,
so important to be very, how do you put a ring together? How do you take it down? How do you set up? How do you tear down? All those sorts of things you should be familiarized with myself. But specific to commentators, Blake, I'm going to say this to you and to anyone that's listening, that's interested. I ascribe to the school of Gordon solely. I remember Dusty Rhodes telling me that even Gordon got himself in the ring. They made him take a few bumps. I'm not saying he went through this entire rigorous program, but as a commentator or a ring announcer, when you're trying to talk and talk about the action, how do you really know what it feels like unless you've taken a few licks yourself? That's how I look at it, right?
right,
Just creates a little
yeah.
bit more credibility. So To me, I love getting in the ring. I love rolling around. I love, I love that physicality of it. But at the same time, as I said, I know where my bread is buttered.
Right. Yeah. So, watching wrestling as a kid and growing up on it, who were some of like your favorite wrestlers growing up?
I always say this, my favorite wrestler from an entertainment perspective was always The Rock, right? I thought he was the coolest thing since sliced bread. 90, 7, 8, 9, 2000, when I first started really seeing him, like SummerSlam ladder match 1997 against Triple H, and then it just kind of took off from there. And at that point, I'm an impressionable 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, and I'm just like this guy because his catchphrases and everything, obviously I gravitated
Hmm.
towards him even more than Stone Cold. Favorite wrestler to watch, that I watch when I'm on the treadmill or I've got some downtime. Dean Malenko. Absolutely
Oh,
love Dean
okay.
Malenko. There was something about him. It's not that he was this charismatic guy, but man, he came in and he did his job, and
Yeah.
he just made it look so effortless. And so those are the two guys that I always gravitated towards the most. But look, I grew up in that Monday Night Wars, Attitude Era, came of age. So a lot of that stuff still resonates with me today.
Of course. Yeah. Out of like all the matches you've witnessed, or like out of all the wrestlers you've seen get into the ring, who would you say has been like the stiffest out of all?
Well, I haven't necessarily. Listen. I haven't been in the ring to work a whole lot of matches. I've done some battle
Yeah.
royals. I wrestled a referee once, so I've been in the ring with some WWE guys, just to kind of get warmed up and different things like that. And look, there's no such thing as being stiff or overly stiff. It's not the case at all. So I'm not a great person to answer that particular question. You're gonna have to ask a wrestler about something like that.
Right. What would you consider to be a strength and then a weakness of yours in the wrestling business?
I like that. You're making me put myself on blast, which is it's appreciated, right? It's, kind of self-reflection is always important, even if it's in a public domain. No, I'm happy to answer that. Look, I think when it comes to, I want to I want to tell a story about a weakness that I've turned into a strength, which is when you're young and you're first kind of going through this, and you're working with guys, girls, promoters that have been doing this for a long time. There's a lot of respect that you have to earn. And oftentimes, what ends up happening that you maybe forget is that sometimes you try to be, maybe, I don't know about buddy buddy, but you get a little too comfortable. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
And you may end up trying to say something or interject or add some, like 2 cents when maybe it wasn't asked for, or in a time and a place where like no one's looking for it. And especially if you're young, you're still trying to build yourself up in a company, or you're trying to build up yourself as a brand. Like, know your timing, know your, like, the audience. Like, you don't always need to open your mouth. Like, I ascribe, again, I have a lot of sayings to help, like, make the students digest this. God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. Know when to open it and know when to listen, and most of the time you just want to listen. Dr tom dr tom Pritchard, who was the lead trainer at FCW at the time, I've got a story for you. I'm happy to share, tell you
Of
that, I've
course.
taken my lumps. But also Dr. Tom, um, he had a lot of sayings too about this. And one of the things is, it is better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and erase all doubts. I want to say that one more time. It is better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and erase all doubts. So, sometimes it's just good to kind of, the perception is reality. So sometimes you just have to watch yourself. And listen, when I was young and coming up, and I was at the WWE very young from a professional standpoint, I had only really been doing that work at office for about a year and a half tops before I got signed, right? So I didn't know a lot of these
Yeah.
unwritten rules and things like that. And I remember I was at a live event. We were somewhere in Podunk, Florida for an FCW event. And Dr. Tom was the producer for that event. And I'm sitting next to him as we're kind of getting prepped and everything ready to go a couple hours before. And he was on one. It was not the right time. So, and he got angry at me because he was not in the best place of mind. But he had asked a question to somebody else that was, standing on the other side of him, and the guy couldn't answer it, right? And he was like stumbling, but I knew the answer. So I jumped in to provide it, thinking that I was trying to be helpful. And Dr. Tom
Yeah.
turns and he looks at me and just full throated goes, "Did I freaking ask you?" And like, I was like, whoa, like I'm trying to help, but the perception is that like, know my place. He wasn't asking me. You don't need to come in and think like you know it all. Like that's the perception. Oh, this guy's a know it all. So you see, like that was a weakness. Sometimes you have to kind of think a little bit ahead and know how to play the game. That was a
Yeah.
weakness that I had in the past, and I'm happy to share that. I tell people some of these, stories, right? Because it's like I don't want them to try to make the same mistakes. So a weakness that I did have before was like know my audience, know my place, really understand, hey man, like tranquilo. You don't need to always be heard. Just do your thing. And then, as you build more of a reputation, you earn the trust, you kind of build yourself up a little bit more, right? You earn that ability. So that was a weakness that I've definitely learned my lesson long ago, and I've used that, pretty well, right? And then to answer your other half of the question, the biggest strength is I had the mindset of knowing how to tell stories. And I ultimately try to do that even in helping out the young guys. I am always so humbled when I have wrestlers, even veteran wrestlers, that come by and hey, Russo, what did you think about my match? What would you suggest? Especially from a storytelling perspective, right? So
Yep.
I'm always thinking about camera positioning. I'm always thinking about what do we as commentator broadcasters want to get over on the match, and why is it important for someone that's flipping through the channels or scrolling through YouTube videos or shorts, and somebody comes on for the very first time. How do we keep them hooked? How do we give them something? And so I always have that mindset, and a lot of guys don't, right? Especially when they're starting. They're like, "Oh, this is cool. I'm just wrestling." It's not for you. It's for the audience, for the fans. How do you make it compelling in everything that you do? So I bring that mentality and that mindset all the time whenever I'm asked for an opinion or for creative meetings or when wrestlers ask for, advice on those sorts of things. Like I'm happy to impart it. So there you go. You're yin and yang, Blake. You're yin and yang.
Great story. Yeah. I love the Tom Pritchard story and all that. So,
Dr. Tom, I owe so many Dr. Tom stories. Everybody loves Dr. Tom, right? Everybody that came through the FCW developmental program has awesome stories to tell, funny, good. Like Doc was amazing, and when I think about the most influential people in my life that have helped me in pro wrestling, like Dr. Tom is right there at the top. One of the 1A and 1B with Off of the Wild Samoan. He really smartened me up a lot, really smartened me up, really got me understanding like how to think about more than just beyond me and the bubble. So I got plenty of Dr. Tom stories.
and what was it like getting to work with Dusty Rhodes, also a legend and pioneer in the business? What was he like?
The man had an ego bigger than the state of Florida, and deservedly so. So you want to talk about like, two ears and one mouth for a reason. When Dusty was on one, you wanted to avoid him like the plague, but he was the smartest man in the room with so much when it came to character development. So much respect for Dusty. Dusty taught me so much. The fact that, my main job down at FCW when, I wasn't in front of the camera was working alongside another guy by the name of Rob Naylor, who I love to death. I love that man so much. Rob Naylor and I were in the trenches together doing this thing at FCW, just the two of us, working alongside Dusty Rhodes, supporting him, catering him. Um, when he came in, he focused so much on the character and the character development, right? The character
Mhm.
building, the promo classes. and there was so much that he imparted as far as knowledge. And I loved how Cody explained like Dusty to it so eloquently at his funeral. You know, Cody said that Dusty loved broken toys. Dusty loved people that weren't polished, that were these men and women that, you know, didn't know what they were doing, but they had just that little kernel, just that little nugget of something. And Dusty was able to latch on to that little something and pull it out and really get people understanding the art behind the science of what professional wrestling is. And I learned so much, and I crack up when I think about like so many days. I just would love it. Like Dusty would come in and go, Russo, turn on that Purple Rain, baby. Purple Rain. We gotta listen to Purple Rain here. So, you know, we had the sound system for the whole arena and everything. It was like it's like, you know, it was a good day when he was like, listen, turn on that bread and water song with Purple Rain. You know, it was a good day, and I always enjoyed you know, I learned so much. I got scolded a few times. I've got some stories about that. You know, again, learning things the hard way from Dusty. But man, just watching him, you could just learn so much through osmosis. And then when he spent the time to talk, right, to pull those kernels out. I mean, you know, those the characters that we know and love today that we have seen, right? The Bray Wyatts, the Roman Reigns, is the Seth Rollins, is the, you know, the Rusevs, the Cesaros before, you know, before they left, the John Moxleys. He worked with all these guys, and so much of that character that came out, it was just him cultivating it and amplifying it and supporting it. And you just go, man, what a legend. This is awesome.
Of course, yeah. And actually, just talking about Dusty, I actually had a question about him scolding you that I was going to ask later. But since we're talking about him now, I'll just ask now about the time that he yelled at you uh, during commentary in FCW, if you don't mind telling that story.
So it makes me it taught me a lesson about, again, knowing your audience. So I'm happy to share the story.
Yeah,
So um the WWE had come in to film one of their DVDs, right? Their compilation DVDs. That probably was War Games. I think it was War Games, right? Because that was a Dusty concept. But Dusty was the
right.
narrator for the DVD. So there was no training, but Rob and I had to be there again to support, to help, to join, you know, do whatever needed, run whatever errands for the film crews and all this stuff. And so we're in a break and we're grabbing lunch, and they were, you know, they use a lot of contractor like videographers and film guys, you know, just because they're in Florida, whatever. They're not going to fly them always all over the place. They use contractors, and I'm grabbing lunch, and one of the contractors was like, "Whoa, this is really cool! Like, I never knew who Dusty Rhodes was, but like spending this time with him like is awesome." And I kind of like look at him like, "You don't know who Dusty Rhodes is? Like, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Like, this is Dusty Rhodes. This is greatness right here in front of you. Like, what a dummy." And so I go back into the production room, and Dusty's, you know, he's taking a breather too, and he's eating lunch. And I go to Dusty, go, "Hey, Dusty, guess what? There's some clown over here that didn't know who you were." And so I had to smarten him up. Like, how funny is that? Like, come on, man, you're the greatest thing ever. Like, man, it was so fun. Like, you know, kind of like you know, what a joke that guy was. And Dusty just kind of looks at me and goes, "Okay, yeah, okay, thanks for letting me know. No problem." Next day, I come in. Dusty comes in and just full throated, just, "Rutho, get the hell out of my production room. I don't want to see you. You are banned from the production room. Get away from me." Like, that was the first thing he said to me the next day, right? I'm like, whoa, what
Wow.
happened? Holy smoke. So I just like, I run out of the production room. I'm like, what just happened? I had no idea what's going on. I'm just kind of sitting in the corner, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. This is it. He's gonna cut me. Like, he was seeing red. A couple of hours later, you know, after he had left, Doc pulled me into the office. He goes, "Let me talk to you for a little bit." He goes, "So tell me what." So he asked me what happened. So I told him the story, right? And obviously
Hmm.
he knew all this, right? But this was his way of teaching me a lesson. And so he goes, "So you told Dusty Rhodes that somebody didn't know who Dusty Rhodes was?" I go, "Yeah, because that was the joke." He goes, "How do you think that made Dusty Rhodes feel?" I go, "Oh shoot." He goes, Dusty Rhodes is bigger than Elvis, right? He'll say it himself, but this is Doc saying this, like, Dusty Rhodes is bigger than Elvis. You can't tell him anything that makes him potentially feel like he ain't bigger than Elvis. So when somebody doesn't know
Yeah.
who Dusty is, like, you might try to do it for a chuckle, right? But it's like perception is reality. How do you think that made Dusty feel, given who he is, who he was? I go, I understand. He goes, Russo, you have to understand. The things that you say, people may not remember exactly what you told them. They may not remember exactly what you showed them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Huge, huge quote that just, you know, he goes, "Do you know that quote's in the production room tucked away?" I go, "Yeah, but I never understood." He goes, "Well, now you do." So that's the story right there of someone, hey, I got it. I understand. So now I learned. So, but and then the next day afterwards, Dustin's like, "Listen, you can come on back." Like totally, and I apologized. And we moved on. But it just was a great story that I like to share with the other students. That again, perception. Even when you say something, it could be misconstrued a certain way. So be careful
Yeah.
what you say and how you say. So valuable lesson there.
Right. That's a good learning lesson on your end for later in the business too.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah. For you, was it difficult traveling from show to show, or what did you like traveling, or what was like the worst and best thing about traveling for you?
At the time, for me, there was no worst. Right. I'm young. I had no family, no obligations. Like for me, being out of the house was awesome.
Yeah.
I was putting in over 80 plus hours a week with all the responsibilities that I in 6 days, no less, right? Because we nobody did anything. Everybody had off on Sundays. 6 days a week, I'm putting over 80 hours with everything I had been doing. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Um, I love the best part about traveling and running, driving to town, doing the towns and working different shows is the camaraderie that you build on those car rides with everybody, right? You start to bond a
Hmm.
little bit, you start to go through it together. Like like that's invaluable. I know right now we've got a moment happening on social media with like Chelsea Green and Mia Yim and everybody kind of talking about the grind, right? Like, hey,
Hmm.
for all these years I was grinding every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all these hours, like this, that, and the other. Like, there's a lot of grind that goes in no matter what, no matter where you are, no matter what level, even if you're the top of the top of the WWE, there's a grind that's involved, right? Obligations and responsibilities. And so the things that like help pass that time or that help you make it enjoyable are the times that you do spend with others, right? To commiserate if nothing else. But man, I love making the towns in cars full of the other boys and girls sometimes just shooting the shit. Oh, pardon my French, shooting, and just getting to know one another and knowing that we're going through all this together, right? Those are the memories that live long after those experiences are done.
Of course, yeah. Are there any like funny or interesting on the road stories that you have from your time in NXT FCW?
I have quite a few. Just about all of them, I don't feel comfortable always sharing because sometimes they would get a little out of control, a little rowdy. Really, maybe not the best for a Facebook live stream appropriateness. But I'll tell you, look, one of the obligations and the dues that we had to pay at FCW is that we actually had to do street team. Like we had to go and drive like a week or so before a show in wherever it would be for Stark or Live Oak or like North Florida or just all these places hours away from Tampa because we were still in Tampa. So West Florida to drive in, we had to do flyers. We had to go into the towns to put up flyers on like telephone poles, totally not legal in a lot of cities. We had to go into a whole bunch of different establishments, businesses, and venues to pass out club cards, right? Because we
Hmm.
had to do that ourselves. I don't think they do that at NXT. I don't think that's an obligation of theirs, but it was for us at the time. And so you're just like miserable about it because you would go on a Saturday or sometimes a Sunday, and you would be assigned a car full of other, 3, 4 other guys, and you'd have to just be miserable knowing that you're using up one of your free days to go and poster. And but again, it's what you make of it, right? So listen, there would be times where there was one show I remember we did actually that was like right off of the Tampa beaches. It was a show I think for like the police association in collaboration with I think it was Dean Malenko's brother Simon at the time.
Okay.
Or was it, I think so. Can't remember, but it was for the police association benefit. And it was an outdoor show, and it was there on the beaches somewhere in Tampa. I can't remember exactly which beach. It's right off the beach at some, but it was outside and it was hot and it was miserable. I was near Clearwater. It was miserable because it was so hot and the ring was so hot, right, absorbing the sunlight. And here I am, like in a suit, right, because I'm the MC, I'm the ring announcer for it, and I'm dying. Everyone's dying when they're working. But afterwards, we all kind of were like, "Ah, let's just go to the beach." So a lot of us just piled into our cars. We went over to Treasure Island and we hung out there on the beach for the day. There were a lot of those like Sundays where it's like, hey, let's go hang out after a show, or Saturday nights after a show. We'd go like to a local, I think it was like the Brick House. Yeah, not the Yard House. I think it was the Brick House down the street, down further down on Dale Mabry. And then we go to the beaches sometimes. Like those are the moments that were like awesome that I'll always cherish and appreciate with the
Of
boys and girls.
course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's just great that you could cherish all the memories with all of them and
Mhm.
get to do things like that. Who would you put in your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Oh, man. This is a terrible question because it's like, well, what are the. I understand it's any parameters that I want, but, you know, professional wrestling encompasses so much, right? And no matter who you put on the Mount Rushmore, people are going to get peeved about it, and you're just, it never is an easy answer. So like, what eras and the people that and what they've contributed. uh it's hard. I don't like all the greats that we think about in general, like they're the greats. So if you want to put them on your Mount Rushmore, great. Like, I appreciate different guys and different girls for the different things that they did and the eras that they were in and what they provided, right? um
Yeah.
but but ultimately the answer is going to some variation of guys and girls that are on TV, right? Because those are the ones that we really know, that we really remember. And they're on TV. They were on TV for a reason because they were really great storytellers in some way, shape, or form, whether it was with their wrestling or their promos and their characters. So I don't answer that question. That's not for me. I just love. I'm a historian of wrestling. I'm a big like geek about the history of professional wrestling, and it's like, everyone talks about the Mount Rushmore, but why aren't we talking about, why Gorgeous George, right, was really the
Hmm.
first, like, professional wrestling was like the first truly televised sport back when television started becoming a thing in the 40s and 50s. It was pro wrestling that was ahead of the curve, not football, not baseball, for television. And Gorgeous George was the real first pioneer of people like, wow, here's this guy on TV. He's a character. What a spectacle. I need to boo the hell out of him because I hate him. Nobody puts
Yeah.
Gorgeous George on in the Mount Rushmore. No one talks about him, but he's a pioneer. So, like, does he go? But it's like there's so many guys, different eras, different things. That's why I just like, I'm good, but thanks.
Right. I mean, yeah, it can definitely be hard doing the Mount Rushmore with all the wrestlers that there's been and just great
Because
legacies.
you're
I
because you're only
totally
talking
agree
about
with you.
four. They're only talking about
Yeah.
four spots for 90, in this case, I mean, if we go all the way back to George Hackenschmidt, right? Hackenschmidt, it's like 100 years of quote unquote professional wrestling. How do you bubble it down to four people? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Most most people name wrestlers from like the recent eras and never go deep down into the history of the wrestling from way back in, like when, like you said, George. and stuff. So,
George, Carl Gotch, right? These are the guys that were the true pioneers. It's like,
mhm,
well, they contributed something in a way that we can't understand because it was like it was 100 years ago, right? But here you got
yeah.
guys that turned something from they were legitimate wrestling matches that went on for hours and people got bored and turned into, hey, maybe we should kind of do get in cahoots together here a little bit and make a little money off of this together. And it's like, and here we are today, right? And so, yeah, it's. I could go on just this topic alone here, Blake, with anybody for hours, hours. Hack and Schmick, not Hack and Schmidt. Man, it's. But yeah, sorry. Keep going, keep going. My brain was just stuck on that.
Out of all the companies you have worked for, which one has been your most favorite?
To me, that's like asking which child is your favorite. Truly, like, and I really mean that. That's because they all they all helped me become who I am today. So there is no favorite because I learned and knew and understood so much. Like for WXW, like that's my first home. Like that's where I grew up, right? It's like that's like the equivalent of you in your childhood or wherever you really grew up. That to me is like the memories right there, and truly the way that Afa took me in. There was Afa Pops, as we lovingly called him. Pops and I had a relationship that transcended just simple student and teacher, and he loved all of his kids. He called us all kids, right? Because he treated us
Yeah,
like family. But he and I had a really special bond that he didn't have with everybody. The way that I became truly a part of his family, his extended family, the relationship that we built, he was like a second father to me. So that promotion and everything that it taught me, the family that I built out of that, truly and honestly, could never get anywhere else. That is what that provided me. FCW, WWE, NXT, that taught me truly and everything about how to think and be and act about telling stories and the production that goes behind it, and that what what keeps people entertained, what keeps people coming back day in and day out, week in, week out. It's that storytelling thing that it's different from most all the independent wrestling promotions. It is about
yeah,
hooking them and how do you do it and the art and the science behind that. So now it's like I've got this true and honestly this television production level type schooling that has helped me with everywhere else that I've gone, whether it's really small indies to help them out, to here we are at Reality of Wrestling, which to us is like, look, Booker talks about it. We are the AAA promotion, right? If you are
yeah,
an aspiring wrestler, you come here to get smarter, to polish, to finish yourself up, to put yourself in the best position for a WWE or a TNA or somebody or a New Japan to sign you and bring you in. So, we treat this like television because it is, and the way everything is run. It is run like the WWE. So this is as an unbelievable, as great of a place as you can be short of being in the WWE. And that's awesome. So what we do here, people are banging on our doors to come and join us. And our growth is exponential right now. So this fills another hole. It's just a long answer once again to your short question. I don't have a favorite because they've all filled a different part of my cup. And my cup is very full right now.
of course, yeah. And with Royalty of Wrestling, how you like mentioned that it's close to WWE in some sort of way. That like some NXT wrestlers now are wrestling for Realty of Wrestling, and you can see them like this Sunday. There's going to be Wesley. There's going to be some other
JC Jane.
NXT.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean the
So,
collaboration, like look, it doesn't hurt, right? That Booker T has got the relationship that he does with the WWE and the work that he's doing at NXT. And
hmm
it's really cool hearing that like all the guys and girls from NXT that have wrestled here with us over the last year, they always go back and rave about it and how cool it is. And now NXT guys are banging on Booker's proverbial door saying, "Hey, excuse me, like I want to come down to Houston. I want to come and work with you guys. Bring me in." We've created a culture here that is very WWE like. Um, and obviously they recognize it. NXT recognizes it. Sean and Sean recognizes it. And Paul recognizes it. So of course they're going to want to keep getting NXT guys down here for more reps, right? Um,
Hmm.
More reps is never a bad thing, right? And because we run it the way that we do, this is like an NXT light. It really, really is. So we're excited about where we are at with it now. Obviously, now being a WWE ID, there's so much more to come. And I'm sure you probably have some questions about that. We'll talk about that. But like, we're just scratching the surface here at Reality of Wrestling, and what we're doing here to grow ourselves.
Of course. Yep. What is it like knowing you get to work with two other great colleagues in ROW, Brad Gilmore and Carolina Teague? When did you meet them, and what is it like getting to work with them?
That's a great question. I love putting over my colleagues, my counterparts that I work with. So thank you for asking that. Brad, I met, I mean, as soon as I started down here at Reality of Wrestling in January of 2016, he had at that point he was a commentator with another guy on the table. At the time they needed a ring announcer just because Brad was that. He had moved to the commentary table. They tried some other guys. And because I had the knowledge that I did and where I came from, ring announcing started doing and was doing that up until just about less than a year, I don't even know, 6, 7, 8 months ago. Right. So that's always what I've been doing. So I met Brad from the get go. And obviously, this is a guy who's super talented. Brad Gilmore is a true Renaissance man. I mean, he between his music career, he does right now so much with the CW 39 from an entertainment perspective. He's got his own, like, he's become part of the Hollywood press junket as far as interviewing all these celebrities with new shows coming out because he's such a trusted voice that asks great questions. So he's part of that kind of cadre of Hollywood media. He has a journalism degree, a master's degree. He taught high school classes a couple years ago. Like, he's a true, and he probably has three or four other things. Oh, he's written books. He's like one of the
Wow.
foremost experts on Back to the Future. He wrote a book about Back to the Future. I mean, he truly is a Renaissance man. And his mind is so sharp, and I love having him as a play-by-play guy because he's so good at directing traffic. You want a play-by-play guy, and before he was a color commentator, so he's able to pivot at a moment's notice. But he's so good at directing traffic, so good at being able to interject where he needs to be, lay out when he needs to. I got nothing but great things to say about. Oh, he's got the Hall of Fame podcast with Booker T, right? Like, man, and
Yeah.
the ESPN radio nationally every Saturday with Booker. Love Brad. I could talk about him forever. So Brad is unbelievable. Carolina, lives in San Antonio. Was doing some work for one of the San Antonio promotions. Came over here looking for an opportunity, and she stuck. She came and stuck really quickly, starting as a backstage interviewer. But she has got an incredible presence about her, and her full-time job or her regular job is she's in radio in San Antonio, and she covers the San Antonio Spurs, and she's one of the very few female credentialed media that covers an NBA team, and she does it very well. So
Wow.
she's able to go back and forth between kind of the sports and then the sports and entertainment that we provide in pro wrestling, and she's still learning. Like, she's still so green at this. She brings a lot of experience from the sports side, but I am so impressed with how humble she is and coming in willing to learn. She's like, when can we do more film study so we can all get better, so I can get better? Like, she knows that she's got so far to go, but the way that she goes about it, I love watching her blossom into this truly, like, special spot in pro wrestling where there aren't a whole lot of female commentators, and especially,
Hmm.
very strong and very good, strong presence, solid on a microphone, female commentators. And I hope and I believe that this is going to propel her to much bigger and better things. I love my colleagues. They really are the best of the best. And I'm just happy to be along for the ride.
Of course, yeah. Sounds like a great colleague team, definitely with all of Brad's success. I mean, what you listed, I didn't even know all of that. I knew some of it, but I didn't know all of it. That's crazy what of all he does, and also,
And I'm not, and
uh,
I haven't, and we
yeah.
haven't even taken any time to call out the rest of kind of the team. I don't even know what you want to call us between commentary, broadcasting, like the voices, I guess, right? The other voices, Kirby Carry On and Sammy Kiss, who you're going to hear on our glory shows moving forward. That's the commentary duo. Those guys are awesome. They're funny. Kirby's ascent and Kirby's improvement over the last couple of years has been awesome to watch. Let's not forget like the ring announcers, Eliana and Emily Truitt, and our backstage interviewers like Emily May. Right, we have a team that's so polished. Right, like as great as our talent is in the ring, and our talent, I think, between how they look and how they perform is obviously top class. But are the rest of the team and the commentators, broadcasters, backstage interviewers, the voices, also the best of the best? But you have to be, because look at where we
Hmm.
are. This is the AAA. So I give love
Yeah.
and respect to everybody that is a part of this. And then the real ringmaster, listen, I'm all about, giving love, where like people need to understand the people behind the cameras. All of our camera guys, so many of them have done, production in the past, right? And then our ringleader is Kevin Bernhardt. Kevin Bernhardt is Booker's right hand man. He's the producer that makes all of this happen. He wears so many hats behind the scenes. And Kevin's ability to be calm, cool, and collected through all of this, to wear all those hats and, interject where he needs to, like everybody loves Kevin. This ship and everything you see here and everything you don't see here, Kevin is the captain. And if we didn't have him, like this would all fall apart. So everything behind the scenes, so awesome, just as important as it is the great talent you see in the ring.
Most definitely, yeah. I mean, it couldn't be a whole thing without everyone. So,
It's a
yeah.
team effort, guys. For those of you all who are watching that are young, or still don't kind of understand how this all works out in the professional wrestling business, like appreciate and show respect for all the other people that put in the work to set up and tear down. The camera guys, your ring announcers, like everybody. It's a whole village that puts on the show, and so just appreciate as much as you can the whole all the people that put it together, not just the wrestlers like you that you're on the show with.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Who helped you train to like get into like the commentary and broadcasting? Was there anybody that helped you get into the voice of what you're doing?
Short answer is no. No, like I didn't go to school for journalism. As I said, I did radio. Like I had journalism like in high school. I knew that I had a very strong voice. Like I'm very animated, I'm extroverted, like professional wrestling very much fit me, but I was able to try to, self-teach myself, right?
Yeah.
If you're a referee, turn down the volume on a WWE Raw or a premium live event and just watch the ref. Right? If you're a wrestler, turn down the volume and really watch the wrestling and understand like what are they doing and how are they telling the story. Well, as a commentator, someone aspiring and wanting to get better, I listened to a lot of tape of guys that I respect and that I knew were top of the top. At the time, when I was doing I was doing a lot more play by play than I am today. But it's like you watching Jim Ross, Joey Styles, because I was doing a lot of one man booths at WXW. So Jim
Hmm.
Ross, Joey Styles, I always appreciated Tony Schiavone, fellow James Madison University Duke, by the way, Tony Schiavone. I always love calling that out. But I appreciated watching those guys, and then like Mike Tenay with his ability to come in with really interesting facts. Like you learn, you watch, you appreciate, you try to emulate as best as you can. When I got to the WWE, at that time there wasn't a whole lot of support from up above. We were kind of on our own island. I have to tell you, like, there were a couple of times that Jim Ross came down. And really, it was more like to watch and look and scout the FCW talent. And it was a bucket list item. I am so appreciative that I've had the fortune of being able to call shows alongside Jim Ross, which is like the coolest thing ever. But even JR wasn't really giving a whole bunch of feedback or advice either. We were kind of on our island. I have to say, the one time that I actually got like a sit down and talking to help make me better was one time Howard Finkel was down at NXT at Full Sail. I think he was there to announce. I think it was for the NXT the first ever NXT inaugural championship match between Seth Rollins and Raj. Goodness gracious, whatever his I can't even remember his WWE name. It was the inaugural match. Jinder Mahal, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Howard Finkel took the time to sit down with me and explain to me like some of the tips and tricks and critique me, which I always appreciated. I'll take that to my grave as well. That I got to spend time with the Finkster. But other than that, it's a lot of like self reflection. Um, it just was a different era and a different time where just not a whole lot of time and effort was spent on improvement, which I try to help out with, again, with guys and girls that come up to me and ask me. We're kind of on an island of our own, Blake. I mean, you know a little bit of what that feels like. It's a little bit harder to get that feedback. So whenever you
Yeah.
can find guys and girls that have been somewhere and have learned a little bit, try, like, I always want to try to impart knowledge. We always want to latch onto it, but short answer is no. I've had to do most all of it on my own.
Right, yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about going to college for like broadcasting and that type of thing. And besides that, graphic designing, but that's what I'm thinking about going to college for to help me more in what, because I want to also do that inside the wrestling business, is all of that type of thing. So,
Listen, it's a great foundation, right? Journalism is a great foundation to help you kind of just like understand like the X's and Y's, right? And working through, things with your voice and again, how do you react? How do you tell stories in that way? And then there's something about wrestling with the production that goes along with it, right? That you got to have a
hmm
little bit of a base there too. And just guys and girls that have done this. I want to tell a story about a guy that we listen to now on New Japan, the voice of New Japan Pro Wrestling right now, Walker Stewart, who is uh, a guy that I absolutely love to death as well, because this is a guy that was grinding for years, doing the towns, making the towns Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and as a broadcaster, as a commentator. And when you're working these small towns and you're trying to build your resume and your credibility, who's helping you out? I was very appreciative when he was coming through Reality of Wrestling, trying to find his space and trying to find an opportunity, that he'd take the time to ask me and ask me for advice and how do you get better from a television perspective. We have to help each other out here, right? And then to see him get
yeah,
signed, the grind and the effort that he put into to get the opportunity, and to see what he's doing now, like, I smile about it all the time. We joke about it a lot, but that's the mentality you got to have, is that wherever you can find those pockets of anybody that you think could potentially help you out, like, always ask for it, whether you're a wrestler, a commentator, referee, etc.
yeah, most definitely, I agree. So about the WWID thing with ROW now, what was it like when you officially heard the news break that ROW was going to be one of the companies that had gotten WWID'd, and did you see it coming?
Uh, I think I look at the ID program as an official stamp of approval from the WWE that we had been doing this the right way, right? Um, all the other four, I think it's a total of five, right? The other four schools, awesome, right? They're led by great people, for current and former WWE guys that the WWE trusts. Um, but listen, reality of wrestling's been around for 20 years. This year's our 20th anniversary. I've been around with it for about 9 of those years, right? We knew what we were doing was the right way of doing it. How we build talent. When we do the tour here, I'll show you the banner, our Ring of Fame, our little wall of fame of all the talent that
Okay.
has been signed, by major promotions. Like we knew that, like this was like, yeah, you know what? This is the stamp. It was a long time coming. It was great. It's great to be recognized, because then the feeling at the moment when we got recognized, the press release and all that was like, all right, it's time to go to work now. Like we're really going to roll up our sleeves, because now we've got the eyeballs on us. So even though we knew we were doing the right things, like, hey, we've got to step it up even more now, because it's the eyes, not even more eyes from the WWE, more eyes obviously from the rest of the world. It's time to roll up our sleeves and get to work. So that was like everyone's first initial reaction, like excitement and like, hey, bring the lunch pail. It's time to turn it up, and it has, like I said, people are banging on our doors to come and work here. The number of people coming in here wanting to train, new student enrollment has gone through the roof. Like we're already outgrowing this place, the building that we've got right now, with the audiences that we are bringing in for our shows. So look, we know what we're doing here is the right thing. This is just sort of the WWID designation, Blake, is just the signal finally that we've got from, Stanford saying, yeah, it is pretty legitimate.
Of course, yeah. And it's pretty cool to be one out of the five that got that opportunity. And uh, I think Zilla Fatu might be the next one, because he's
Oh,
part of the ROW roster, pretty much. And I feel like he might be next going to WWE.
I mean, it blows me away to see a guy like Villa, who has barely done this. His like, it's less than 2 years, and he had taken some time off even within these last 2 years. To
Mm-hmm.
see how well he's picked this up, how well he understands the psychology of all this, and he gets better with every passing day and every passing month. Not to mention the social media presence that he has. Like he has figured out the formula that, like when he's out and about, he makes himself, like, people turn their heads. Everybody talks about the airport test. Like in professional wrestling, the airport test is like when there's a guy that walks through the airport, do people turn their heads and go, who is that? Like that's a somebody. Like I don't know exactly, but like I like whether you're this giant, this tall giant, or you're just like, but it's like, do you bring some sort of aura around you? You have this aura about you that makes you pass the airport test. Zilla absolutely does, like without a doubt, right? He's got all the
Yeah.
pieces, man. It's just that little bit of extra polish that he's going through right now. He's going through some tough times between him and Booker, because Booker's trying to teach him a lesson, if you will, in that ring, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
don't too big.
Um, I don't know what happened. Something went wrong on his end. He went like completely black. Um, I'm guessing maybe his phone died. We'll just give it a second, guys, and we will wait and see if he'll be back on here. Okay, yep, there he is.
Hey, sorry about that. Man, that was crazy. I don't know what just happened. I think somebody tried to call me and then it just like
Oh,
everything froze. So sorry about that. Didn't mean for that to happen. Um sorry. Remind me.
that's
Oh,
fine.
Zilla. We were talking about Zillavot too. We were talking about Zillavot too.
Yeah,
This man is putting it all together. Yeah, he's going through some tough times right now for Booker T to kind of put the brakes on him. Like, hey, guy, like, hey, hey, not everybody's got a rocket strapped on them and you go right to the W. So slow your roll, fella. So he's going through some tough times right now with Booker. But you just look at the guy and Blake, you called it out. Everybody's calling it out. I think it's just a matter of when, not if, for Zillavot too.
I agree. Yeah. So currently, you working with ROW, that's a WWE ID, and you formerly working with the WWE. Is there a possible chance we could see you back in the WWE doing anything such as backstage, commentary again, in such the near future or any time possible?
The great thing about professional wrestling is that you never know what's going to happen. So I to that question I say stay tuned because who knows?
Yeah. Are you still friends with a lot of people in the WWE?
I have there's a few, and by a few I mean like a handful, one handful of guys that I still am close with as far as not just on a texting basis, but like a call basis because I'm old school. I love to talk to people on the phone, right? Um, just that, like from the WWE days, right? Because everyone's got look, everyone's busy, everyone's got careers and different things going on, and it's hard to build a lot of real friendships in this business. It's very much a dog eat dog business, and people have got families and looking out for different things. So you don't build a whole lot of like deep, long, close friendships, but with a few, right? Um,
Yep.
a lot of people that I'll still text with, I'll check in, we'll shoot a few quick texts and then we might not talk for, 6 months, a year, something. And then, but as far as close that I got on speed dial that I don't mind, we don't mind talking with one another for, 30 minutes, an hour. Yeah, I'd say like one handful.
Nice. So there was a transition. What was like the transition like for you in WWE NXT FCW during the full Sayer University pilot change, where you were first part of FCW and then you were there for the brand change to NXT. So what was that like for you and all of that?
Yeah, at first it was a little jarring when it officially happened. So down at FCW, within 3 months of me getting down there, we ended up filming the pilot episode of Full Sail NXT. Right? It was dark, like it was. Not. I don't think it ever aired. But they had some WWE guys come down to wrestle. For the main event to try to get the crowd through the doors because otherwise, nobody really knows who we are. Uh, we did the pilot, right? And then a number of months go by and other things are happening. And then I just remember all of us, you know, a lot of us will read, internet news, as I like to lovingly uh, use, as Jim Ross would lovingly say, the dirt sheets, right? We saw, that there was a news story that like, uh, the local access cable network that was airing FCW was going to shut down. Like it was going to stop immediately. They were not going to air any more FCW, and that FCW, as we knew it, was going to shut down, and we were all going to move to Orlando like within weeks. Like we were hearing it through that, so word traveled really quickly. Like what's going on? We were a little nervous, and of course, we're being told from above, like no, like we're still doing this. Like no one's moving to Orlando right now. Like it's not like continue doing what you're doing. and that's all we could do. We just kept going, like, and then that's when we started filming NXT as we know and love, which I guess is now on the NXT Vault on YouTube from the day one. And
Yeah.
but we were traveling from Tampa to Orlando every other week or whatever it was to film, and we were just doing that. And then it wasn't until much later that then they canceled the FCW shows, and then ultimately they did move to Orlando, but it wasn't anywhere near imminent. But it was a little nerve wracking at first when we were like, "What's happening? No one's telling us anything, and we're learning this from the dirt sheets." But
Yeah.
overall, though, obviously it was the right move. Much better, obviously a better introduction to the larger WWE audience. This NXT, this new rebranding of NXT, awesome, awesome, and that was a lot of fun too.
Of course, yeah. And it must just be cool to know that one of like the accomplishments of being there for the first ever NXT taping, that most of the currents or even the beginners in NXT, like possibly like Big E, Roman Reigns, etc., can't even say that they were there for the first time, unlike you, like for the first ever show.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. It's like it's that's cool, right? Again, you talk about
Yeah.
finding those moments and cherishing the journey, not necessarily the destination, right? And so being able to take, like, I got to broadcast with Jim Ross. I got to be on the first ever episode. I got to commentate the pilot. I got to commentate and ring announce those first episodes of NXT. Really cool. Like, no one can take that away from me. Those are moments and memories that I get to cherish. I'll be able to share with my kids one day. It's really, really cool. And those are the things, wrestling can become a grind, and there's a lot of drudgery that's involved, but it's like, find those moments and enjoy them, because, one day this is going to stop for all of us that are doing this. So enjoy it while you can. Don't pass it by, and take the damn picture. Hashtag. Right? Don't ever. That's a relatively new thing. That's one of my biggest regrets. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a drink. One of my biggest regrets is that I didn't take more photos, because that just wasn't a thing that we did back then, right? It was really
Yeah.
uncouth and not kosher to do that. But man, times have changed. I'm just so much happier that it's much more loose now. I wish that it was like that back when I was over there. But I've definitely taken those photos now. That's for sure.
Of course. Yep. What are your thoughts on what they're doing now with many different WWE programs, such as WWE LFG and Evolve, which are helping out the newer generation, such as ROW helping out the new generation? Uh, what is it like getting to see them?
In today's fractured media landscape, right, where the days of everyone watching the program on television, Monday night or Thursday night or Tuesday night, whenever SmackDown kept jumping around, like those, they're done, right? So companies like the WWE obviously can afford to do it, but they're smart enough to understand is that they've got to bring the product to everywhere and wherever people are. So I love it. You can never have too much content. You really cannot have too much content. You can have a lot of content at one time. Like, you don't want to make WWE Raw 4 hours long. But the idea is that you
Oh,
you
yeah.
you can never have enough content that will that, like, you can never have enough content that will cater to the different audiences, right, that like professional wrestling. So if you're a big fan of, you never know what's going to happen, shock factor, something big going on, like WWE Raw, right? If you're a fan of seeing up and comers, you've got Evolve and NXT now. You've got the LFG, for more of a cinematic look, like a la Tough Enough that we used to have back in the day. It's a different format, right? And then they have WWE Speed for like short, quick, and straight to the point, social media kind of only stuff. It is
Yeah.
phenomenal. So I love it. I love the proliferation of it. There's never enough, there's never too much pro wrestling. So as long as you're getting good content out, it's never enough. So I love it. I love seeing that there's more platforms than ever for guys and girls to be able to showcase their craft and become stars.
I agree. Yeah. So
And
there
and
was,
sorry, one more thing, and that's what we're doing at
of
Reality
course, yeah,
Wrestling here at the Row. That's we're taking that to heart as well. So we are big enough now that we can support and sustain two shows moving forward. So now what we've rebranded as Glory, that's happening this Sunday, and moving forward, we're going to have Glory every month, and then our other show that we've now rebranded as Platinum, which I'm on with Brad and Carolina, is happens every month. And so we're looking at it as like, this is our Raw, this is our SmackDown. We can sustain two shows because of the amount and level of talent that we have. And now we're
yeah,
creating a third show, as it was mentioned in the press release, that we're going to do a YouTube only, like a YouTube show in the same spirit of a Tough Enough, where we have all these
wow,
students, and I think we're calling it Row Up, where we are going to kind of watch the journey of some of the students as they make their way to try and get to those next steps of glory and platinum. So it's content. And if you have the talent and you have the dedication and the production to do it, you should absolutely do it to grow your audience.
most definitely, yeah. That's great to know. I mean, you guys getting out there with more things and everything like that. So there was one ROW show where you were on commentary, and Booker T grabbed you by the collar of your shirt. What was that moment like for you?
Terrifyingly awesome. I mean, because it's not scripted, right? What I love about Booker, right? Ever the Hall of Famer, like, things aren't scripted out. You got your few bullet points which you need to accomplish, but there's no script with him. That wasn't scripted. It's not like he told me, be ready for this. So
Yeah,
I'm in the I'm a ring announcer at the time, right? And he got upset at the way that I had introduced him and or his students, if you will, his entourage, his little group, and I paid the price. I paid the price, and I learned a very valuable lesson, Blake. If you're not learning, there's a problem. Uh, Terry Funk once said, "If you think the day that you think you know everything about the wrestling business is the day you should get out of the wrestling business." Well, I definitely learned something that day, Blake.
yeah, definitely. You never want to make that mistake again.
Nope,
Definitely when you're around Booker T.
that's right.
I actually almost got to meet Booker T in Minnesota, but he couldn't. He had to reschedule, or well, he couldn't make it because of an NXT thing booked. So
Uh-huh. Well,
yeah,
look, the way the WWE is going, and how much kind of more, shall I say, relaxed the WWE is about, certainly with like legends being more out and about and being available for signings and different things. Hey, you never know. He'll be coming back up north sometime, sooner than later. So hopefully you'll get that opportunity. Or
yeah,
flip side, make your way on down to Texas. Come check us out.
yep. Have you ever tried? Sorry, my bad. I already asked that question.
Sure.
What is it like just getting to work with a Hall of Famer, two Hall of Famers actually, Booker T and Queen Sharmell, just kind of uh, put more on what we just kind of talked about of like Booker T and Queen Sharmell. What is it like getting to work with them on like a daily basis?
Yeah, I'm always learning. I'm always blown away, right? It's funny because I look at them, as much respect as I obviously have for them and everything that they've done in this business. It's not like I'm starstruck when I see them. It's like, oh, hey Book, hey Queen, like I work alongside them. So it's, to me, it's just like another day at the office, right? But you got to, I take a step back and go, holy moly, like these are two people that have done so much, and made professional wrestling better. They're leaving it better than when they started it, right? What I am learning from Booker and Charmel continues to be, hey, thinking about wrestling in different ways, right? You know, getting to pick their brains is phenomenal. But more than that, you have to remember Booker and Charmel are small business owners too, right? Reality of wrestling is their business. So they have
Yep.
to run this like a business, and they do. They like there's so much behind the scenes beyond just the wrestling shows that I'm learning and even doing what I can to support in places too, to support this is a business, small business that we're just trying to grow. Obviously, we want to make this as big as we possibly can, and I'm learning something new almost every day with them, right? You know, the questions that I ask, the things that they ask of me, where I'm coming in to try to assist as best as I can. I'm learning both the wrestling side of it and the business side of it, and it's been mutually beneficial too. Just with the things that I do, you know, with my real life job in corporate, you know, the business acumen that I've been able to develop and build. You know, I went to school and got a master's for business, and you know, it's very collaborative, and that's what it is for everything too, right? Once you've built that respect and that trust, right, that I mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, you know,
Yeah.
they're more than willing to ask questions and kind of get or accept your input, you know, appropriately, if you do it appropriately and respectfully, right? That's been a real joy. And again, I'm learning, right? I might make a suggestion. I go, that's not bad, but you know, have you thought about this? And like I'm looking at it this way, and I go, oh man, I never thought about it this way. It's
Mm-hmm.
great. It's awesome. So learning a lot, and frankly, again, between the two of them, and then off of the Wild Samoan being a Hall of Famer itself, it's like I've been so lucky that I've come up through this business working with like the best of the best. I know that's not everybody's path, and it's not everyone's journey, but it's been mine, and I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, you got to work with a lot of Hall of
Yeah.
Famers. Booker, Charmel, Alpha, Sika, Jim Ross. I mean, there's probably
And
obviously more.
yeah, think about all the trainers at FCW too, like Ricky the Dragon
Yeah,
Steamboat, you know,
that's
Like
right.
what and again, what a charmed life I've had in this world to be around them, be able to ask questions, be able to learn. That's just those are it's not every day that you're able to do that and get, you know, it's like the equivalent would be like you being able to go to like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and get time with them to learn and be mentored. Like it's almost impossible. But here we are in a situation like this. It's like, wow, this is awesome. It is really cool. And the wrestlers here, like when they get time with Booker, when Booker gives them feedback or gives anybody feedback or advice, you know, people take it to heart. You know, they learn from it. Like it's special. It's special to be able to get that kind of instant feedback from somebody that's been at the top.
Of course, yeah, yeah, most definitely. During a show or training, you got choke slammed by a female talent named Surreal. Sorry if I'm saying the name wrong. How did it feel getting choke slammed by her?
Terrible,
I
terrible.
bet.
Because I'll just say this: I got super light for her. She was strong, but man, I jumped. I made it look great, and that sucked. But listen, uh, sometimes you just rub people the wrong way. Like I said, I thought maybe I learned my lesson. She didn't appreciate that I was telling the truth, but maybe sometimes you gotta learn when to say something and when not to say something. And yeah, I got a big choke slam in the middle. Let's see. Inside of a ring, I've been choke slammed. Uh, I've been clotheslined. I mean, I've had one true wrestling match and it wasn't even all that great. Like I've been slammed, I've been thrown out of the ring, like I've been bullied around a time or two. Not all the times were deserved. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But yeah, that choke slam in particular, I whoever caught that on camera, the photographer that caught that, yeah, I'll give props. That was a really good look.
Do you mind sharing like the backstory of why she did that to you?
I can't even remember, but obviously I upset her with something that I said when she came out, and she choke slammed me and then picked me up after I was almost knocked out unconscious. She picked me up and was about to power bombed me, and then I was saved by the good guys. But yeah, I honestly can't remember. Again, it's I go back to that quote. I can't remember what I said to her, but I certainly remember how I made her feel because she was not very happy.
Of course, yeah. And I bet a bump like that doesn't feel good on somebody that doesn't really take bumps much. So I mean,
Well, here's the thing about that ring. So here's a fun fact about the WXW wrestling rings over there. Okay, um, the primary training ring when we were training was a super soft uh super soft ring that was built specifically for Nicolas Cage, who was the original um uh Randy the Ram for the movie The Wrestler. That's a fun
wow.
fact right there. Nick Cage was the original Randy the Ram in Aronofsky's film The Wrestler, and he was training for about a week, and he took his licks and a bunch of bumps, even in that nice super soft ring. And then, oh, very lucky, fortuitous timing. Disney calls, or he calls. You know, the production says, "Hey, Disney, let me know that they want me to come back for National Treasure 2. So I'm going to take that one. So I'll see you guys later." So, anyways, we were left with this very soft ring initially to start our training. But the show ring, the main show ring, it's a 20 by 20-foot ring, so it's bigger. But it was the ring that was used by NBC's Saturday Night Main Event in the 80s.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
It was a hand me down to Alpha. The problem with that ring, all the boys that ever worked in that ring and all the wrestlers back in the 80s in the WWF days that worked that ring will tell you it was the worst, hardest, most terrible ring to bump in because, um, hey, think about NBC, network television. You're going to be in front of a much bigger audience, so we have to make this a really big spectacle. Well, Dick Ebersol, who led NBC Sports and was the driving force of bringing WWF onto NBC, said, "Hey, I really like the sound of the smack hard on a ring. We really want to be able to amplify that. Can you help that out?" And the best way to do that is to make the ring just a little bit harder. So there was really no give in that ring at all, except the small little spot in the very center, just a little bit of give. But there was no flex beaming, no nothing. It was hard as a rock. So all that to say, when I took the choke slam, you just go because it wasn't square in the center of the ring. It wasn't ready for it. You go, because it knocks the wind out of you just a little bit because of how
Right.
hard it is. How that thing was like a box, just slightly below a boxing ring. Oh, it was unbelievable. So there you go. Fun
Wow.
fact. Fun fact about that ring and the Saturday Night Main Event ring.
That's actually a really interesting story. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know we mentioned this uh, kind of here and there about Jim Ross getting to work with him on commentary, but he only came in for like a few times. So what was it like getting to work with him in commentary in FCW?
I had working with him was a treat and it was a delight and a bucket list and a oh my OMG moment, right? Just sitting next to him and him allowing me to be the lead, right? He wanted to follow, right? Certainly because I knew the product a little bit better than he did, but that he still gave me that opportunity. Um, Jim Ross spent most of his time down there, as I mentioned earlier, looking at the talent, watching the talent train, spending more time talking to them more than spending time with me. I ran errands, oftentimes, or grabbed lunch for him or something more than anything else. Um, he provided a little bit of feedback, but just a couple of things, just maybe like one little note randomly here and there. Jim Ross was really, but still, like to me, it was more of a cool moment than anything else.
Right.
Oh, the people that I worked the most down there with, as far as commentary goes, was Byron Saxton, who's one of that handful that I still stay very close with, and William Regal. This was right when he was
Oh wow.
transitioning. this was him transitioning out of being a full-time wrestler, and the WWE told him like, we want to move you into a more of a commentary role, more of a speaking role. We'd like you to go down and get some reps down at FCW. So most of my shows were either a two-man booth with Byron or a three-man booth with him and William Regal. And I learned a lot. It was interesting because William was so humble. Like I would put together some notes for him. Um, uh, I want to take a little bit of credit when with Paige, when Paige was first brought into FCW, or to be when Paige was shown on FCW television for the first time. William Regal used the line, "I wonder who that enchanting raven-haired lady is, or raven-haired beauty is, lady, maybe lady, enchanting raven-haired lady." I actually penned that for him in my notes just to give some concept of like, because he's on the road and then he comes down, so you want to get him prepped, and he really
Yeah.
really liked that. He really liked that. So it's just a little piece of me that goes, "Ooh, there's little things. There are little things that out there that exist in the world that I had a very small hand in delivering that is really cool." And that was one of those moments. But William Regal taught me a lot too, right? Because he did spend some time, speaking and being a figurehead and a general manager, right? And other things. So I
Yep.
did get some feedback from him, but he was asking me like, is there? He would ask me for feedback sometimes. I'm like, well, I'm not. Thanks, but I
Wow.
appreciate you. So but it was a cool dynamic. I really enjoyed working with the two of them.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. So there's a photo that you have on like your Facebook about you doing Christmas, like a Christmas special commentary with Brian Saxton on FCW. What was that?
Yeah, I think it was just us knowing that we were filming for episodes that we're filming over the holidays. So I think we were just like, let's have a little fun with it. And I always remember to bring it up every holiday season, just like Mariah Carey's famous song. You can always be assured that that picture is going to go up like clockwork on my Facebook page every holiday season.
Right. What are some of your inspirations that made you decide to get into the commentary business? Is there anybody that inspired you, or anything like that?
I'm really appreciative that you asked that question, because like it's funny. I had sports idols, but growing up, I was absolutely glued to Sports Center. And let me tell you something, I really, really, really idolized a lot of those anchors. Um, but I mean, man, the coolest one, the best one, without a doubt, Stuart Scott. That was the guy. Um, I know that this is an era before your time, Blake, but to like Sports Center in the 90s and early 2000s, it was like a phenomenon. But especially here comes this guy that's talking differently, being cool, like being himself, being a bit of a character in an era where everyone's supposed to kind of, be prim and proper and straight and narrow. And he just brought this level of machismo and coolness that you just go, man, to me, I just gravitated towards that. I remembered my elementary school. So we're talking like mid to late 90s. We had our own internal morning television show where the students got to like share the news of the day. Well, I got bit with the bug at that age because I was like, I would like to be the sports anchor and talk about the local scores and things like that, the local news for the sports. Especially because my name is Chris Russo, and my teacher was like, the teacher that ran the production was like, oh, there's a commentator, a famous sports radio host named Chris Mad Dog Russo. He goes, you're perfect for it.
Yep.
Do it, right? But I remember, like, I was obsessed with watching Sports Center every morning before going to school. When I came home, if I was able to stay up late enough to watch the 11 o'clock Sports Center. Stuart Scott, man, he was the coolest guy ever. And that was like an idol that I was like, I want to do that. I think that's it for me. Like, I want to be in front of a camera, having fun, talking about sports, and being cool about it. So rest in peace, Stuart Scott. I think about him a lot just because of the impact that he made on me, but to so many people. Um, that was yeah, Stuart Scott. Good answer. There, good question.
Most definitely, yeah. And is that where you got your name was from, Chris? Or is that like your real name?
You know what?
Is that where you like got your name is from, Chris Mad Dog Russo, or is that just like your real name and you
Yeah, no,
just
no, like yeah, who knows?
How did you get introduced into Off of the Wild Samoans training school, and like who introduced you into it fully?
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit earlier. With Scott Wheeler
Yeah,
from the NWA. Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
off to the races we went.
yeah. Is As a kid, did you ever go to like any WWE or wrestling events? If so, what is like one of your favorite events that you ever got to attend live?
I have attended two wrestling events live. No, three total, three. I attended the first one I ever attended was Bash at the Beach, not the Great American Bash. Sorry, the Great American Bash, June of 1998, Baltimore, Maryland. I was in the furthest back top row. I mean, my back was touching the wall. I went with
Oh,
my friend and my friend's mom at the time. This was this was when Booker T was having the best of seven series with Chris Benoit to become the number one contender for the United States Championship. So that night, Booker T wrestled match seven, won it, and then later that evening came out and defeated Fit Finlay for the U.S. title. That was like I'll never forget that. That best of seven series was one of those pivotal moments in my life, like in how engrossed I was. And I love sharing that story with Booker. That's like, Book, I was there in Baltimore when you did that. That was really cool. I attended SummerSlam 2005 in DC. That was Shawn Michaels Hulk Hogan when Shawn Michaels was acting all goofy like in that match. I actually went. I had just graduated high school 2 months before, and I went with my old chemistry teacher and my physics teacher because they were the two biggest wrestling fans in my school, and we all bought tickets and we went. And then the last one that I attended was a Raw, also in Washington D.C. when they were going through the general managers. They were rotating through different general managers of some celebrity, and Shaquille O'Neal was the general manager of the WWE Raw that night, which was really
wow.
cool. Yeah. So, these are all really cool moments that I went and they all, were driving forces again and like, wow, this stuff is awesome. The energy is awesome. Like I, I love wrestling. Like those it just reinforced that, right?
Of course, yep. Out of all the matches you have got to commentate in the WWE, FCW, NXT time, what are your three top favorite matches?
Oof. Um wow. There was a one of my favorite matches. So it was at the time Tyler Breeze was known as Mike Dalton in FCW, and he was this young scrappy kid that he was a babyface through and through, but you're just like, is this guy going to become a real star? And he was in
Yeah.
a championship match. Oh gosh, now I'm blanking. As I'm talking, I just blanked. But he won the title like out of the blue. It was the big one of the biggest shocks that I remember during my time down
Wow.
there. And I just remember the energy that I had in cheering for Mike Dalton on the commentary table after he won. I was trying to kind of bring out my inner Jim Ross. WrestleMania 14 when he defeated Shawn Michaels, and that was his coming out party. Like that to me definitely stands out. Um, I think the Zilla match when he won the championship for the first time, there was so much the energy that was there was absolutely incredible. And then um, it, you know actually I think I actually have more kind of ring announcing moments as far as like the absolute coolest things. I got to ring announce off of the Wild Samoan's very last match that he ever stepped foot in the ring for, which
Wow.
was absolute pleasure. And one of the NXT, and I think it's on the NXT Vault. One of the dark main event that they had at the after one of the tapings was it was Seth Rollins and CM Punk versus the Kings of Wrestling. So Cesaro and Chris Hero, or Cassius Ohno at the time, right? So you had
Yeah.
it was an indie darling, dream match in the WWE that was happening, and I got to ring announce that. I'm like, man, this is awesome. So I've got moments for both. Um, it's I don't have a great recollective memory like some guys do, where they can remember specific things that happened, or like
Yeah.
they can recall with pinpoint accuracy. I don't have that skill set, so it's just I remember the moments on how I felt more than the specific things that happened.
Of course. Yeah. Just like one of the moments getting to announce Alpha's last match. That's just something huge. I mean, just wow.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like every time if Booker ever steps in the ring, like you never know if it's his last time ever. So Booker just had a match a couple months ago, or was involved in a match with Zilla Fatu as part of this. Hey, young gun, let me take you down a peg or two. Make yourself a little humble. But I got to be on the ones and twos for that, right? Like, who knows if that's Booker's last ever time inside the ring? You never know, but like
Yeah.
that's a joy. That's a joy to me. those
Of
those moments to
course.
me that matter. And again, I go back to enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. It's not always about the destination. Don't forget about the journey.
Yep. What was the reasoning behind getting released from your WWE contract? Did you see it coming?
No, I didn't see it coming. That's not a question for me to answer, because nobody explains it, or at least I never got an explanation for it. Frankly, I was so shocked when it happened. I forgot to even ask like what happened, to even try to get an answer. I mean, they may have they could have given me a BS answer, or maybe just said, well, don't worry about it. But I just forgot to ask. But look, who knows? It probably, and again, there were incidences when I first got there, when I'm still trying to learn and understand how to play the game, that maybe carried over, right? The perception that never got away. But I probably more likely, you have to remember, I got brought in under a different regime than the regime that ended up letting me go. I came in
Yeah.
under, Johnny Ace and another head of talent relations for FCW, and then Triple H came in, brought in this Canyon Seaman guy that I'm not going to get into, and just a different regime, right? So look, you got to look at wrestling as entertainment, right? You're the flavor of the month one month, and then the next month you're rotated out. It's just that's how entertainment goes. Obviously, I was really upset about it because I didn't know how good I had it, right? It's like a rookie winning the Super Bowl, or the NBA championship. You think this is how it always is, right? You get rocketed to the top, you're young, like you're seeing all this success, you think you're on your way, and then you get humbled really quickly. So I was really upset about it for a really long time. I was bitter about it. It really got me. And then I was just like, I can't let this control me. Like, yeah, like if it happens again, it happens again. I got to find my happiness, and I definitely, and then I worked towards like letting it go. And um I can't explain why, but I think it's all part of the greater process, right? This life
Yeah.
that we all go through. You're going to have challenges along the way. Not everything's going to go your way, and you got to you do your best to move on and figure out how to move on.
Of course. Yeah. Do you think you could have done more in the WWE, or do you think after that you did what?
I mean, look, when I was initially brought in, the explanation to me at the time when I was hired was, look, hey, we're looking to potentially expand programming. uh Michael Cole is like, we don't have anybody behind Michael Cole that we can groom, that we can find. We want to have a little bit more kind of in the queue, right, in the funnel, that we can try
Yeah,
to, because at the time it was just me and Byron. Me and Byron Saxton were the only two guys that were, on talent contracts with the expectation to work on commentary. But that was what I was brought in for. So I think, to answer your question, like, yeah, I was expecting to do more at NXT and see where that ends up going. And, I know that they were talking about, hey, we're thinking about this interesting idea of doing like maybe like a pre-show type of thing, before the show starts, to have a host like, can you put some film together? Like, you can imagine yourself doing it. What would it look like? You know, cool concepts that are like, all right, maybe there's something going on here that I'll be penciled in for. But again, it is what it is. New management. This happens in business all the time, Blake. A new
yeah,
CEO comes in, or a new senior vice president of XYZ, and they're going to bring in their people that they could rely on and trust on from their previous lives, right? That's just how it works, and that's fine. I get it.
of
Business.
course. Yeah. Out of all the wrestlers you got to be around during your time in WWE, is there anyone that you could call like a close friend uh, or anything?
Well, I kind of mentioned one of them. As I said, I've got a small handful. Like, the names are less important. Um, but I think the messaging around it is that, like, look, you can't expect to be everybody's friend, and it is very difficult to make long lasting, truly, you know, best friends, if you will, right? That super inner circle. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just hard. Because again, as I said, people just come from all different walks of life. They all have different focuses on what they want to get out of this, and who they want to interact with and how much they interact. That's just the way the world works, but especially in this wrestling business. So if you can find one or two, or just a small handful that you can really be able to rely and trust and call upon when you need somebody, like, that's a bonus. I look at that as a bonus because it just doesn't happen very often. But as I said,
yeah,
I've got a few, definitely a few, a couple of them very recognizable, but the name's less important. It's about cultivating them in the first place and making sure that, um, you know, don't try to be bitter all the time. But at the same time, it's okay if you're not out here to make friends, but it's cool if you can make a couple of them.
most definitely. Yeah. Out of all the matches you've got to see that saw in your career, who would you say could put on like a 5 out of 5 star match?
Let me tell you. Let me. I'll give you an answer. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm actually going to tell you about the best professional wrestler in my eyes that I ever saw, that never broke through, but should have, or should have. And that's Bo Rotundo, Bo Dallas, who's now, I guess, the
Oh
for
yeah,
on the Wyatt Six, right? He's
yep,
uh,
Uncle Howdy.
Uncle Howdy. Thank you. Name escaped me. He was built up as the biggest babyface that we had down in FCW, and but the way that he worked night in and night out, he got, what is so impressive is the way that, you're going to all these small little towns, and I joke when I use the word podunk, because I respect the fans that come out from wherever it is in some small little armory or wherever we worked. But these guys, back then, they didn't know who we were, right? They saw WWE on the logo. They're like, all right, these
Yeah,
guys are up and up, but we're not superstars. But man, the way that Bo Rotundo worked, the way that Bo Dallas worked, the crowd, he had them in the palm of his hands. The sympathy that he was able to garner, because he knew his assignment. And this is like, again, I want to give advice. This ends up being very good advice for those listening that are trying to become really good professional wrestlers and how they tell stories. You have got, if you are a babyface, you have got to learn how to get your butt kicked. You have to get your butt whipped in matches, okay? For the crowd to start sympathizing for you and then therefore cheering for you so that when the comeback happens, you are on top of the world and the crowd is going nuts.
Yeah.
He understood the assignment. That's like he was able, I'll say one of the best matches that I ever saw. It was him against Cesaro in a no rope match. So they took down the ropes, main event. It was in the wrestling ring, and the only way you could win was to push your opponent out, kind of like old Tekken or Dead or Alive or whatever.
Okay. Right.
Um, and of course, Bo's the good guy, and Cesaro's the bad guy. And the story that they told, because a lot of people use the ropes as a crutch in their wrestling
Mhm.
matches to push people off to get to the next spot. But these guys were so good, they don't need the ropes. And they could tell. But the sympathy, night in and night out, a good baby face has to know how to get their butts whipped and be willing to do it. Get your
Yeah.
butt whipped. Don't try to be this cool guy that takes a little bit and then you want to. That's not how stories work. The good guy needs to be this close, right? It's like movies. It's like I'm like
Yeah.
it's like the Avengers. Like the Avengers were this close to just getting destroyed by Thanos. Like you have to create that sense of urgency, and Bo knew how to do it. And for I don't know what happened when he got called up and how just sometimes just plans go different. Man, that is to me like the best stuff I ever watched was watching Bo Dallas work.
Of course. Yeah. I totally agree. His work is great, and definitely his brother Bray Wyatt was just
It's funny because he was the opposite. He like his work wasn't like his wrestling didn't have to carry him because he was the best performer you could ever expect or want out of somebody. He understood the assignment that wrestling is about characters, right? It's about telling
yeah,
stories, but really having a character, something that people are pulled into. Again, we talk about, the leaning in. And he just had this mind that, you know, Dusty was always, anybody that worked with Wyndham would tell you like how his mind worked on a different level about character development, ideas and pitches that would get over, that would work. um
yeah,
my little nugget, how I talk about, I'm proud of little things that I've done. Like I remember being in the office in the production room with Rob Naylor, going through Bray Wyatt, going through our sound collection, our music collection of music we can use. We helped pick out his iconic theme song, which is incredible that they had that available for us to use. But we spent hours and hours figuring out what was the right theme, what was the right mood. And Rob and I pulled
yeah.
up this song for him, and he goes, "That's it, that's the one." So little nugget there. I'm like, just a super small piece. Um, Last story I'm going to share about Bray. I there was a lot of work that I did with him in helping just capturing like his character so that we could pitch it to the writers and the creative team up at the WWE to get him the heck out of FCW. And so we photographed a lot, we recorded a lot, and about a little over a year ago, I just remember I found like this old camera that I had, and it had a bunch of like audio and video of stuff and pictures from stuff we were filming with Wyndham, and it brought back really good memories because but man, he was just so smart, so talented, and I'm so sad that he's gone. It stinks.
Yeah, I think he was like one of the best in the business. I
Yeah.
mean, to this current day, uh, he was just one of the best. So, was there any times you have accidentally broke out of your wrestling persona, such as like messed up your lines on like live TV or anything like that?
No, No, I think I learned from a very, very young age. Like, I used to do, school plays, and again, just kind of like learning and watching and understanding, how performances work and sort of the art around it. Like, the only time fans know you messed up is when you act like you messed up. Okay.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake, and even if the fans call you out and say you made a mistake, if you don't react to it and you act as if that was part of it, then it was part of it. So again, another piece of advice that Booker gives all the time, right? Like, if you make a mistake, don't act like you made a mistake. Make it as if that was part of what you meant to do. The moment that you break character and you break the suspension of disillusionment, as we call it, then it's gone. It's gone, right? You've got a
Yep.
you've got a you've got a captive audience in the palm of your hand. They know that this stuff is choreographed and that it's predetermined. But if you put on a good enough show, they forget and they suspend their disbelief for the same reason that people hooted and hollered when the Wakandans came through the portal to save the day in the Avengers movie, even though we know it's a movie that's not real. It's because
Yeah.
the story is so strong and so good, people are willing to suspend their disbelief. But the moment that you act like you messed up, it breaks it, and then it's so difficult to get it back. So you can't. So no, I am knock on wood, and I'm only going to say it once. I'm not going to say it twice. Uh, been very thankful in being able to stay professional even when mistakes happen.
Of course. Yeah. If right now in your career you got asked to work either for like TNA, New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor, or any other like big companies, GCW, or anything like that, would you take up that offer? Oh, you must have a call again. One second, guys, until he comes, and then he'll come back probably. He probably got the call again, like just a while back.
Man, I'm sorry about that. People need to stop calling me because it's like ruining this whole streaming thing when that happens. So I apologize.
No worries. I've had way worse technical difficulties in the past,
It's all
and
good.
much
It's all
more.
good.
Yeah.
Repeat that question again.
Yeah. So if right now in your career you got asked to work either for like TNA and New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, Ring of Honor, or any other like big companies like GCW or anything like that, would you take up that offer?
Oh, see, this is it, the answer is possibly. It's not a yes. It's not a hell yes. I mean, we just have to think like priorities change. Like, look, first and foremost, I'm in a great home, right? Like, this to me is awesome. If I don't go anywhere else, I'm super happy here. Like, this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
If opportunities happen, certainly 5, 10 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Now it's more like, hey, let's talk. We'll see. Like, you never close the door on anything. Everything is open, but I've got a great thing here. Got a family, wife, a kid. Like, different priorities change. You never say never, and there's always, I'm always open to hear. But I'm also super happy here too. So you never know. You never know. I would never turn down the opportunity. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Like in the wrestling business, they say never.
That's right.
So mentioning earlier that you and all of that, like you worked for WXW. What is like one of your top favorite memories besides announcing for Alpha's last match? Was like one of your favorite memories from working there?
All of my favorite memories at WXW in my time in Florida with them was not actually the wrestling or the wrestling shows. It was all the camaraderie and the camaraderie that we built and the time that we spent outside the shows at Pops's house, um, with the incredible minds and the incredible people that joined us as well during those times. But as I said, Pops was always somebody that thought of his students as kids and wanted to treat them in a way almost like a family. And so there would be so many times where after shows he would invite us over to his house, or he would actually cook and barbecue. Like he'd invite us over on like a random Saturday or Sunday to come over for barbecue, and he'd cook chicken and chop suey and
Wow.
potato salad. Like he loved being surrounded, because for him it just made him feel young. Like it made him feel good. Like there was, like, he was giving love and he was receiving it back in kind, and we knew how much
Yeah.
he enjoyed it, and we obviously appreciated. We didn't take it for granted. um, we were his extended family. But the camaraderie that we built amongst ourselves, the wrestlers, with him and his family, again, we talk about Hall of Famers that we were surrounded by, you know, like guys like Ricky Santana, who has been around everything. He's the
Hmm.
main booker in Puerto Rico right now for their major promotion, WWC, I think. Yeah, yeah, WWC. Haku would come around a lot. Like I love I love Tonga to death. Like we all call him lovingly, we call him Tonga. He is the nicest man ever. Like he was the most feared man ever, but he is the
Yeah.
nicest man ever. And I love seeing him, like the names, Rocky Johnson, God rest his soul, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, God rest his soul, like the other people that would come by to spend time. Um, it was cool. But those were the memories. Those were the memories that and the experiences that I loved and appreciated the most during my time at WXW.
Yeah. Most definitely. Mentioning earlier that you went into the first episode of WWE NXT, but also there is FCW that you started out with. What was like the first show you got to work for in the WWE, and how did you feel going into that first show? Were you nervous at all? Was there any pressure from taking the spot from the last person that was there, or anything like that?
Well, there was certainly a lot of pressure, right? I didn't want to screw up and feel like they're going to send me right back home after I just signed a lease, an apartment. That what am I going to do? There was definitely
Yeah.
nervousness, especially because the first show that I went to was a TV taping, and so there was a production meeting, and they asked me to go and sit in on the production meeting, and I'm nervous because I know I feel out of place. They don't know who I mean, they knew that I was coming, but they didn't know me. They didn't know who I was. Um, Thankfully, the guy that I quote unquote replaced, he had gotten promoted into a role to, like, Triple H. Um, was starting to ascend into some little level of power before he took over NXT and all that stuff. And he needed an assistant. And the guy that was doing commentary, who had been there for years doing commentary, ended up getting promoted to be that assistant role to Triple H. So he had moved on. So it was actually the perfect timing. I'd come in like the
Yeah.
very first show after he left. Um, but it was nervous. It was nerve wracking. Television taping. Here I am. Like, I don't know how well I'm going to do. And it's not like anyone's prepped me with anything. I was actually definitely afraid that, the stories that you hear about Vince in one year and Kevin Dunn in the other year and yelling and this, like, I was concerned that like something like that was going to be the case down there. And like I was going to get flustered and I'm going to screw it up, and Byron Saxton, God bless him, calmed me down, did a great job of like getting me ready, and like surprised, when the cameras were rolling, we were going, nobody was talking to me in my ear. Like it was just laid back, like go out there, do the best that you can do. Um, it like to me to this day, when people ask me before the show, hey, how you feeling, you nervous at all, I go, yeah, I am. And it's like when wrestlers say like they're nervous until their music hits and they come out the curtain. Like until the red light turns on, I'm nervous as hell. As soon as that red light turns on, I'm like I'm in my zone. I'm calm, cool, and collected. But yeah, it was definitely nerve wracking.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, because I get nervous when I have to work shows. Definitely since I just recently started not that long ago, sometime in 2024. So I still get nervous a lot having to do like the backstage interviews with all these wrestlers, having to think of what I have to say and prepare myself and everything like that. So,
You've got to put yourself in the mindset of the moment, right? Put yourself
mhm.
in the mindset of what that moment is supposed to be. Is there frantic energy? Is it calm, cool, and collected? Is it nervous because you feel like you shouldn't be there, but you've got to get the questions answered, right? You've got to feel the moment, okay? And then you've got to become a part of the show. You've got to have great facials. Everything is here. Everything is here, right? With the facials and how you react to
Yeah.
what is being said into the microphone. You've got to put yourself in there. And it's just it's that kind of the most important thing is that you have to feel confident that you belong. You have to be confident and feel confident that you belong in the picture of whatever that story is that you've got to capture as a backstage interviewer, right? Booker talks
Hmm.
about this all the time. You don't have to know what you're doing. You just have to act like you know what you're doing. You don't have to know what you're doing. You just have to act like you know it. All right? So that's like the best piece of advice, and it just comes with more reps because you're still so young in this. But I say this to other aspiring commentators and other aspiring ring announcers and backstage interviewers. It takes reps. We don't get as many all the time, but you've got to just like loosen yourself up and put your mind in the moment of what you need to do, and then just be ready to turn it on for the 60 seconds or 30 seconds or the 90 seconds that you're needed for whatever that segment is.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Talking earlier about uh, your favorite growing up was like The Rock. What was it like getting to meet him for the first time?
First time I met him was the very first show that I attended for WXW. It was their 10th anniversary show. I had not yet started working there. That was the show that I got introduced to fully to Off of the Wild Samoan. But I did get to shake The Rock's hand, and then I got to spend a few minutes with him at WrestleMania uh, 30, whichever the one in 2015 when Daniel Bryan won. I think that was 30. I got to spend a little bit of time because I was there hanging out with Pops, and of course Dwayne comes in, wanted to spend time with his uncle, and so
Yeah.
we got to chat for just a little bit. I mean, it's cool, like, but to me, like, I was a little starstruck because again of who he was even at that time. But at the end of the day, it's just like he's just another Samoan in the extended family. Like the amount of time that I'd spent with other Samoans as part of the larger Samoan dynasty. It was like family. I mean, it wasn't my
Yeah.
first rodeo, so it was cool, but almost like uneventful to me, just because it's another day at the office.
Yeah. All right. Who were some of your favorite wrestlers to watch on a daily basis during your time in WWE?
I mean, it's the guys that you see on TV now that are in the WWE and elsewhere. I mean, all those top guys that had the talent, like you could just tell they oozed it,
Yeah.
right? And then in addition to Bo Rotundo, I'd say the other guy that really was really cool. Actually, two cats. Leo Kruger, because again, his character before he became the Rosebud leader or whatever, Adam Rose, he went through
Yeah.
a couple of different iterations of this South African character. Very, very, very solid from a character perspective. And then Richie Steamboat, so Ricky the Dragon's
Oh yeah.
son, was an unbelievable talent that just unfortunately had developed a neck problem that prevented him from continuing. But otherwise, he would have been. he would have been a star. So those were really the names. I mean, you think about who you're watching on TV now. You know, all the guys from the Shield, Miro, Rusev, um, all those guys that got called up. Bray Wyatt, right? Luke Harper.
Yeah.
You know, they just had the talent, and you just couldn't wait for them to get the hell out of there and start making real money and be seen by everybody and be like, yes, this guy's talented. So yeah, it's all those guys.
Yeah, definitely. What was it like getting to do a work for Ring of Honor for a bit of time that you did?
Well, it was really one show more than anything else. It was an
Yeah.
opportunity when they started running shows in Dallas. And this is when Cody Rhodes was doing stuff with the Jacksons and like the Bear. There was a bear involved about elections, stuff like that. It was fun. It was a fun, trippy time, right? When he was post WWE, you know, figuring out what he wanted to do pre AEW, and he's working different
Yeah.
indies. But it was a show, and they had, you know, Future of Honor, right? You know, up and coming stars. And at the time, they just couldn't find Chris Cruz more than anything else. Like we had a couple of our guys go up there hoping for an opportunity. You know, I'm there. I introduced myself as a ring announcer and a commentator and said I'm available, and they just couldn't find Chris Cruz. I don't know where he was or what was going on. They're like, "Did you bring? Hey, always bring your gear, even if you're a commentator. Always bring your gear." And I sure as hell did, even though I knew I wasn't booked. They're like, "Okay, you got your gear?" I said, "Yeah." So I ended up getting to ring announce a couple of Future of Honor matches in Dallas. Really cool. Got to play pool with the Briscoes. Like
Oh
that's
wow.
again cool moment, right? There was a pool table in the changing room in the locker room area, and man, they run house like nobody could beat their asses at pool. I tried. I had some fun. We were shooting, you know, joking around, shooting the you know what, and like another cool moment that I'm able to take with me. Um, but that was the Ring of Honor moment. You know, I think it's just again that's the biggest piece of advice and why I like to bring it up is that you never know when you're going to be called upon. Bring your gear, no matter who you are and what you do in pro wrestling. Bring your gear.
That's right. I agree. Have you ever done anything in Wisconsin before, such as like a wrestling thing?
No, I've actually never done any shows up in your neck of the woods. I've actually never been further north. I've been up north on the northeast because I grew up in DC.
Okay.
Okay, I'd go up to Maine stuff, but like I think anything further north than Chicago. No, that's a lie. I've been to Wisconsin once to play golf.
Oh,
Outside of I can't remember the name of the place, but it was beautiful. It was off of Lake something or other. It was beautiful. But no, I've never for wrestling. The furthest north that I've ever done any work for wrestling is Maryland. So I've never gone any
okay.
further north than that for wrestling.
Was it Lake Superior or Lake Michigan?
No, 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 no. It was like a small little. It's not one of the Great Lakes. It's one of the lakes in Wisconsin. Lots of them. I'll get
Oh,
with you offline when I remember it. How about that?
okay.
Beautiful though.
Yeah.
I loved so much of it. Wisconsin's beautiful in the summertime.
Oh, yeah. So two more questions, and then we can do the tour
Sure,
with you. And
sure.
so, what is one thing you would tell your wrestling fans that have been with you since day one, or that have just found you? What is one thing you would tell your wrestling fans?
So if you have been silly enough to even support me or follow me, which probably other than my mom and my dad, you know, maybe my brother. You know, if you've been silly enough to even have spent any time following me, I say thank you. Right. Actually, I will say somebody did come up to me and said, like, I look to you as inspiration to help me get into wanting to be a ring announcer. This just happened last week. That was the first time anyone had
Wow.
ever said something like that to me. I'm like, what? Like, it's weird just because I'm not a wrestler, right? But it just
Hmm.
reminds you that people are watching all the time and you never know who and what, you know, strikes somebody, right? Just like me with Stuart Scott. Like, I love sports, but no, it's a sports anchor that was like, dude, I want to do that. You just never know, right? But I say
Yep.
thank you. And look, whether you've seen me before or you don't, But look, I like to have a lot of fun here at the Reality Wrestling. When you hear me on our shows, you can follow us on the Reality Wrestling YouTube channel. We broadcast in Houston and Dallas on the CW networks. Actually, fun fact: Reality of Wrestling has more subscribers on YouTube, more YouTube subscribers than Ring of Honor. So there you
Oh
go.
wow. Well, there's
We
something.
are well, look, I'm telling you, we are the AAA promotion for
Yeah.
profession, in professional wrestling. There's no doubt about it. If you ever tune in and you listen, I like to have fun. We have a great time. Like, this is fun. This is exciting. If you're ever curious, like, look, I'm just a nerd who loves wrestling, fast cars, and like video games. I'm really simple. Like, I appreciate any and all support that has been given. To follow, you can always follow me on my social media handles, which are all of them are at Wrestle Russo. I did a good job years ago to try to unify to make sure that I don't get screwed up somewhere. So all of my handles are at Wrestle Russo. And thank you. Thank you to everybody. If this is your first time or many times, thank you for following me along the journey.
Yeah. And then for my last question is what I ask everybody at the end of my interviews. I know you gave some advice in the middle of the interview and whatnot, but so this is just a question I ask everybody: is do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler and for my podcast journey and branching out of that?
Well, look, I'll tell you what. I appreciate that you're asking for feedback, which is always the most important thing. I think that alone is a teachable moment. That no matter what you're doing, it's always great to ask for feedback. How can you always get better, especially from people that have been places? So I applaud you for asking that question for yourself. I'll answer that question for you offline, and we can dive in a little bit deeper. I don't want to kind of use that time with the audience on that. I'm happy to give it to you. I will, as far as a deeper dive, but I will say the same thing for you that I would say for anybody that's looking to get into pro wrestling. Um, I gave a lot of kind of isms and some pieces of advice. Hopefully, you heard it along the way.
Hmm.
I would absolutely recommend that everybody who wants to learn how to play the game in life, and wrestling is a place where you need to know it's a dog eat dog world. So how do you survive? But even in the real world, life is all about politics. I would recommend that everybody read the 48 Laws of Power. Read that book, the 48 Laws of Power. It teaches you how to play the game. It's an incredible. Listen to it, read it, however you digest it. It's called the 48 Laws of Power. I recommend that everybody digest that. Um, and then from there, that to me is that biggest piece of advice that I would recommend for everyone is just know that there are always teachable moments in wrestling. Be ready to eat crow sometimes and take it on the chin, but use it to help yourself get better. And it's not just for pro wrestling, it's for life itself. So I would say though that's probably the strongest piece of advice that I can give.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah. And I thank you for doing this. So, yeah. And are we, are you ready for the,
Yeah, I think so. Am I able to turn the camera around? I think I can. Oh, yes, I can. The back triple camera. What happens if I do that?
and
All
I'll give you
right.
this, and I'll give you the spotlight. So I'll just hop off here and just like be off of the screen and just give you like the whole spotlight here.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so this, as I said, is I've been doing this interview inside the production room. So this is where obviously it's a pretty full space on show days, that controls, all the sound, all the lights, anything that's being shown on the boards, et cetera, et cetera. So it gets pretty hectic in here. It's obviously, we're making some improvements. So there's always like cables and new things that are being added in. I will say that starting with our Glory show this Sunday, it looks like breaking news that all of our Glory shows moving forward are going to be streamed live on Title Match Network, in addition to being recorded and then shown on our YouTube channel. So we're preparing ourselves for a lot more live streaming. So I'm excited about that. We're here in right outside the production facility is our gorilla position. So we've got, where Booker is, and we call it the Bosch pit, actually, instead of the gorilla position, because that picture right there, if you are unfamiliar, is the promoter Paul Bosch, and Paul was the promoter for Houston wrestling, right? So back during the old territory days, this was Paul Bosch's territory in the NWA and beyond. And he's an icon in Houston wrestling. Friday nights at the Sam Houston Coliseum in the 70s and 80s. It was packed to the gills, and it was all because of this man. And so Booker has a lot of respect and owes a lot to Paul Bosch. So again, we talk about how much respect is earned and given in pro wrestling. He has a tremendous amount of respect for Paul Bosch. So this is the Bosch pit, actually, not Gorilla. I'll walk you down through the entranceway, right? As any wrestler would, or anybody as they make their way into the arena, or yeah, into the ring. And then from here, we turn, and here we go. This is our main stage, our studio here, um, where we record our shows. So we've done a lot of work to really upgrade this thing and really make this, as TV ready, as sexy as any TV production would. We've got, large, big screen over there, and this is where it gets really cool. I want to kind of show this a little bit better. Actually, no, it's probably easier if I just do it from here. And if you turn around and you look at our kind of our entranceway, right? We've got screens and signs all over the place. So we've got ourselves like a real studio here for recording. So this is where the magic happens, as they used to say on the old MTV cribs. Um, this is where I shack up during the shows. Our commentary table is kind of like WWE during their Spike TV days when they were up on the stage up there. But this is our space. This is where we get fans that come to our shows. We average over 500 fans, closer to six for most of our shows, which I don't know how we do it because this stage is, I don't know how we fit them in because it doesn't feel like you can fit in 600, but here we are. I mentioned earlier that we kind of have like our wall of fame, our ring of fame, and this is it right here. So anybody that we've saw that has ended up coming through here, spending time working, training, learning from us, that have grown with us that have ended up getting signed. So, the Usos, Sammy Guevara, Athena, Roxanne Perez is there, right? You've got Brian Keith, right? Duke Hudson, all these names here. Like it's kind of a who's who. And so we really, take pride in the fact that we cultivate talent and like they go on to do bigger and better things. So it's really cool. In fact, I think WWE did an expose, I think ahead of last year's WrestleMania. No, one of the pay-per-views where they had Jay Uso come down here. Like they filmed it here because this is where you got to start. So it's really cool to kind of see that, right? And then we've got a full gym back here for our guys and girls to be able to lift and get cardio in. And like you don't have to pay for a separate gym membership. It's part of what you get. We've got locker rooms in the back over there. We've got Booker's office, which is right over here. We've got some storage going on over there. Um, and then the last thing I'll show, which is what we have some additional space. I'm going to take a quick peek in because I don't know who's here, but we have additional rings, practice rings that are going on over here, right? So more practice. So that pretty much sums up, our facility. It's really cool, right? I mean, it's a full-fledged facility, wrestling school, and ultimately, right, for production, for wrestling shows. So we've got it all here, man. This is the place to be if you're an aspiring wrestling talent that wants to learn, or you have learned, but you want to get better and you want to brush and polish yourself up, like come down. We want to have you here. We want you to get better. We want you to work on your craft under the expert tutelage of one Booker T and one Queen Charmel. This is the place to be. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely. And I thank you for taking your time out to give us that whole uh, show off of the whole place. That was pretty
Yep.
cool.
So there we go.
Well,
Now you see where I work and why I love working here so much.
right. And the next show is this Sunday. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so
We're
again,
gonna
like
have off.
this is the next part. This is the next evolution of our growth at Reality Wrestling. It starts with Sunday's show, streaming live on Title Match Network. It's Reality Wrestling Glory, Row Glory. That show will be, show the equivalent of Raw and SmackDown. You can pick which one you want it to be what, but it's there. And it's going to happen every time like that moving forward. So expect WWE NXT stars, Wes Lee and JC Jane. Expect WWE ID talent as well. They'll be back. They're here on our shows, and that and a whole lot more. AJ Francis, TNA's AJ Francis will be in the house, fighting for championship gold. So it's a packed card that's going to be in front of a packed house. That we hope that you can join us on Title Match Network, and certainly on our Reality of Wrestling YouTube channel. Otherwise, please, if you haven't subscribed, follow, or like our social media for Reality of Wrestling, please do so right now. The show that I'm on, we're rebranding, as I said, Row Platinum. That happens every second Saturday here at the Walker Texas Lawyer Arena here for Reality of Wrestling. And then that gets up on CW channels in Texas and on the Road channel on YouTube. So follow us, please subscribe. We're on our war path to 1 million subscribers. We're not that far away, but every single subscriber counts. So excited for that. And then, again, follow me at Wrestle Russo on all my social media, on all the social media platforms to follow me.
All right. Yeah. Well, I thank you for taking the time to do this. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on here, and good luck with the show this Sunday and everything.
I appreciate it, Blake, and thanks for the opportunity to allow me to share some stories and chop it up here a little bit with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Have a good rest of your night.
Hey, cheers, you too. Bye, everyone.